In this video, we're going to go ahead and use AI tools to go ahead and design this app that you see here on my screen. Not only is AI going to help us with the UI UX design of this, but AI is also going to help us when it comes to planning this user flow here. And as a bonus, I also created a custom GPT to actually help you with planning out your app flow and design. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So here on my screen, I have a custom GPT that I call the App Flow GPT. I have the link to this GPT in the description below, so you can use it as well. And basically what I did is that I gave this GPT a very specific prompt based on a real flow that I did prior. And so this is just designed to just help you get up to speed a little quicker. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dictate a prompt to this App Flow GPT. And we're going to go ahead and check out the outline and make sure that we like it. Okay, so as you see here, I said, go ahead and outline for me a simple expense tracking app. The whole idea is that a user should be able to onboard into the app. They should be able to easily click, whoops, let me get this out of the way here. They should easily be able to click and add an expense, and they can add it to a category. I'm just gonna create some space so it's easy to read. So since the core focus of this app is going to be keeping track of the month-to-month recurring expenses, right? So that's basically it, right? So basically the whole idea is that it's a app that's really specialized in helping people to keep track of their month-to-month recurring expenses, all right? So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and send this into GPT. It's default to the 5 model, and it's gonna go ahead and think, and it's gonna go ahead and outline a app flow for us. So let's see what it comes out with. Okay, so it went ahead and generated the outline. So let's see what it came up with. All right, so it has an app goals section. So the primary job is to track recurring monthly expenses by category. All right, one tap to add an expense, shows categories, monthly total, overall monthly total, perfect. All right, so you have a navigation here. So you have a home, categories, settings. Okay, awesome. And look like there's gonna be a global add-on button selector at the bottom so that people can always add on their expenses. So onboarding, splash screen, welcome, basic setup. All right, perfect. All right, that looks good. We have a home screen. All right, we're gonna say the header. This one's total. All right, perfect. Search filter, sure. Category cards for sure. And we're still gonna have this. So one thing that I did add in here is that for global settings, right? So for example, what you're gonna see in onboarding is that, where is it? There's actually gonna be this global, right? This add-on here. So it's not gonna be on the onboarding, it's only gonna be available after. So they're gonna be able to add it here. It's there as well. And anywhere else where the user's back on the home page, they should have that global add-on button. So you have our categories here, and then for the expenses flow. All right, so let's see. Okay, so this is when the user starts to actually add on the additional expenses. So again, we have the expense name, the amount, the day of the month. All right, perfect. The category detail, all right, see and manage any expenses in a category. All right, so this is basically going to be when the user taps to select the category. All right, edit expense, perfect, and a settings. All right, so this is just some extra stuff here, a simple data model to drive this, but we don't need all that. We're strictly going to focus on the flow. And by the way, just a quick tip, there's this tool, it's called Mobbin, M-O-B-B-I-N. And what's cool about this tool is that they have a lot of designs from a lot of popular apps already published on here. So for example, I can just kind of click on an app and they actually have different flows. I can click on flow and actually you see here all the different app flows, right? So you come here, then there's a link to phone flow and all these different flows. So if you ever need inspiration, you can come to this website called Mobbin and they can just kind of help you break it all down. Okay, awesome. So now that we actually have the flow, what we want to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and start generating our UX design. All right, so what I'm going to do, and part of the prompt that runs this app flow GPT is that we're actually going to go ahead and generate it flow by flow. So I'm actually going to ask it for the onboarding flow and the prompts. All right, so I said, go ahead and generate the onboarding flow and prompts for each screen. Please also include the context for the onboarding and the state for each flow. I didn't say really, but anyway. I'm going to send that. So while that's loading, the tool that we're actually going to use today is a tool called UX Pilot. Okay, so I'm here in UX Pilot and I created a new folder here. I call it the subscription tracker app. And if I come back in here to GPT, you see that we have, all right, it generated our context prompt, splash screen, welcome screen. So just a quick lesson on exactly how UX Pilot works. So whenever you're creating flows, and I didn't know this at first, it wasn't super obvious. So if you're creating kind of just one design, you just kind of paste in here the prompt for the one design that you have. You hit generate and it'll generate the one design. However, if you're generating a flow, then this is really going to act more as a global context. And then each screen that you create is going to be populated here. So with that being said, I'm going to come back here to the context prompt. I'm going to copy it, paste it in here, and I'm going to click on create flow. So I'm going to come back in here, and for the splash screen, I'm just going to copy this, paste it there, and so on and so forth for the subsequent screens. Okay, awesome. So I went ahead and pasted them all in here. There was a seed category screen. Basically, the idea here is that there's a set of default expenses, just kind of give the user an idea of what it would look like. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and move with an empty state screen instead. So now that everything's in here, I'm going to select this to mobile app. And for now, we're just going to go ahead and generate a wireframe. I can tell you that you don't want to kind of UX and UI at the same time. It's very important to focus more on layout first. Be happy with that, and then you can actually go over to hi-fi design. So I'm gonna click on wireframe, mobile app, and I'm gonna go ahead and generate. And as you see here, it's gonna go ahead and generate these screens for us. All right, so let's see what it generated for us. All right, so we have here, this is going to be the splash screen. It's actually pretty cool. It actually has the loading animation here. So basically the idea is that once the app loads, this is what you see while the app is initializing. After that, it's gonna move into here. We're just gonna have some information about tracking their expenses. All right, cool. Then from here, we're just gonna ask to configure their settings. All right, so I may or may not maybe implement that, but anyway, so I'll just keep this optional. And then here we actually see that we actually can go ahead and manage everything. Now, one cool thing about UX Pilot is that it actually has a cool thing about section edit. So if I wasn't happy with one of these sections, or let's say I wanted to redesign this, I can just come here and hit section edit, come here, and I can say redesign this element. So it came back with this single icon here, and actually looks pretty cool. Kind of torn. I might like the 3 or the 1. I'll just keep it for the 1 for now. All right, so now that our simple onboarding flow is done, let's go ahead and generate exactly what happens from really the home flow onward. Okay, so back here into GBT, it basically gave me the option to give me to continue building out the home plus the core flow, so adding expense, category, detail. So that's exactly what we'll do. All right, so I said, yeah, go ahead and generate me the core flow, really what happens when they add an expense. And I just told it to go ahead and leave off the settings one for now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and send that, and it's going to provide me with the prompts. Okay, and while this is generating, so after you've kind of generated some flows, you can actually hit this button to clear all. And for this though, I am gonna leave it here. All right, yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Okay, so went ahead and generated this is really a home screen after everything's been added, it looks like. So it has the month's total with the recurring expenses and everything. All right, we'll have the expense screen, category detail. All right, awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this, and we'll just go ahead and paste it on over. All right, so I have the new home screen. I have the form screen for adding a new expense, which is basically what happens when you click there. Category detail screen, and we have a category management screen. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and generate that, and let's see what it comes back with. All right, so it finished generating, and let's take a look at the designs. Actually, I'm gonna highlight these, and I'm just gonna move them as the user continues. So we see here a state where really this is what it looks like after it's all filled out. I think we can make it a little bit better, but I'm just gonna move that up for now. So this will actually come later in the flow. What's really gonna happen is that when they click on this button, they need to be able to add a new expense. So when they click on this button, they're going to add an expense, the amount, the day of the month, what category it falls into. They can add a category. All right, and we're actually going to remove that repeating switch because if they're adding it here, remember the focus of this app is to focus on month to month. So I'm gonna say remove this element, do not replace it. I'm just gonna generate that so it goes ahead and removes it. All right, so while that's generating, after it's added, then it basically will land on the home page, right? So if they have any categories, it'll just land there. But again, I think we can regenerate a better screen than that. Right, and then this here is the category breakdown. So if they were to click on a category, say housing, there's a rent, there's insurance, there's cleaning supplies, right? All these things. As we see here, we have a monthly, one time. I actually think instead of doing this, we can actually just put the day of the month it comes out on. Oh, now you see here, it actually looked like it doubled the form here. Did it do that on first try? No, it did not. What I can actually do, so this is actually pretty cool about UX Pilot. So as you see, it added an extra field here. So what I'll actually do instead is I'm going to come back here and I'm going to open the source code. I'm just going to go ahead and find where this recurring switch is, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. Okay, awesome. So that's actually one of the cool things about UX Pilot is that you can actually, if you really want to get detailed in what it generates, you can actually bring up the HTML code and find it. Okay, so After that, this is how the layout will look like afterwards, which we're going to, actually, let's go ahead and redesign it now. So I'm going to come here actually to global edit, and I actually want to go ahead and regenerate this design here. So for the, let me see, this is the new home page. And instead of this, I think what I'm actually going to do is make it more into a visual. So maybe like a pie chart would look really nice with the categories and still displaying the monthly total. And then I don't really see a reason to have kind of a recent here. We could see upcoming. So depending on the day of the month, we could see upcoming. So I'm going to come back here to GBT. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to just click there. Okay, so I gave it a different prompt here to redesign that home screen. So I'm gonna go ahead and send it and let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so it generated a new home screen layout. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna come back here. I'm going to clear all. I'm going to hit add screen. I'm gonna paste that in there. I'm gonna go ahead and generate that, and I'm just gonna put that over here. Okay, so while that's generating, you're probably asking, okay, great, but obviously users don't want to just interact with something that's just strictly black and white. Where do we get the colors from? How do we make this hi-fi? So in my experience, just kind of clicking on an element and clicking this button to generate hi-fi actually doesn't do a whole lot for the whole design because you're kind of just leaving it up to the AI to kind of decide. And just like anything with AI, prompting is absolutely everything. So if you don't give it a good prompt, then don't expect the best design. So there's actually something that we're going to do to get around that. But yeah, look at this. This looks a lot better, right? We have the total monthly recurring. We have a nice pie chart broken down by percentages. And we have a category which we can actually filter. All right, so this is a much better looking design here. Now, one thing, if I come into the code, let's see, I might be able to just copy the entire footer block. Bottom navigation. Okay, yeah, so you can literally, if you want, I can just copy this entire footer navigation and I can come in here and I can just replace it. So doing that is actually pretty simple. So no worries there. All right, so I decided on this design and I like this design, so we're gonna go ahead and keep it. Okay, so now let's get into colors. Okay, so there's this website, it's called Coolors. I'll go ahead and make sure I include this in the link in the description below. But basically, these are just pre-made color palettes. I like this a lot because when it comes to visuals like this, I feel like I need a lot of assistance in just picking the right one. But anyway, this website just kind of provides a list of color palettes that works well together. And for an expense app, this green is actually catching my eye. All right, so just to keep it simple, we'll just go ahead and proceed with this green color palette here. All right, and if we don't like it, cool thing, we can just come back and we can just redesign it. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to copy as, and I'm going to copy this as a CSS. Right, I'm going to come back in here into GBT, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste in the what it gave me here, the CSS. Right, and you see here it has ash gray, the blue, dark slate gray. Now I'm going to go ahead and have our AppFlow GBT help me really pick out the color palette. The reason this is important because whenever you're designing applications like this, you kind of have like your primary colors, secondary colors, and then other colors that kind of blend in and tie into the whole experience. All right, so I give it a prompt. I said, I want to go ahead and use this color palette to design my application. What I need you to do is help me kind of categorize these colors. So which one should be my primary, secondary, things like that. Now, this can definitely be a fun time when it comes to app design. And again, I highly recommend that website Mobbin. If you get stuck on just what colors you want to pick out, you can go and check out other apps related to your niche. Not to directly copy them, but just to kind of see what other kind of color combinations work out. So as you see here, it gave me some color suggestions here. All right, so nice. All right, so back here into UX Pilot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick one of these screens. And I want to pick the screen that we're probably going to market the most, right? So in that case, it's probably going to be this screen here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come here, I'm going to click on Generate Hi-Fi. And it has this default prompt here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and come back in here into GPT. Okay, so I put by default, whenever I click on transform a static wireframe, I said do not edit that prompt. I simply want you to add that prompt and then basically just go ahead and give me all these color rule suggestions here. So I'm going to go ahead and send that in, and GBT is going to go ahead and create a prompt for us. Okay, awesome. So I went ahead and created this prompt. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to come here, and it's already highlighted, so I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to paste in this new one. And I'm going to go ahead and hit generate. Now, one thing I like is that when you click on generate a hi-fi, it generates like a separate screen here. That way we can maintain our UX, right? We don't have to worry about like different versions and things like that. So, all right, so let's see what it generated here. And I do not like it. Yeah, I am not the biggest fan of this. So let's go ahead and try another color palette. So I'm not going to delete it. I'll just keep it for now. But let's see, maybe we could try something, maybe like this. I like this coastal vibes. So let me copy this as a CSS. All right, so I basically just told GBT I did not like what it gave me. I gave it a new set of colors here. I basically just told it to do the same thing again. Go ahead and list out everything. And all right, it's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. I'm gonna come back in here in UX Pilot. Gonna generate a hi-fi again. All right, and let's see what this one gives us. Hopefully this one's a lot better. Okay, so it went ahead and generated this new design here, but while it's definitely better than this, I do not like this really light blue background that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to view the source code. And as we see here, there's a Tailwind config. So I need to see exactly which one this blue background is. So I'm just going to go ahead and play around with some of these. All right, so just kind of going through here, I actually found that this background is actually this light cayenne. So if I just come here and highlight the whole thing and I just cut it from here, you actually see that it turns back to a white background, which actually this nice white background is actually not bad. Look like we need something that's very like light like this. All right, so let's see if I come in here. Oh, I like this here, right? It's kind of white frosty color. So if I come in here and I paste that, all right, that looks a lot better, a lot more clean actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. All right, this looks really, really good. Now that I deleted the old design and I know that I like this design, right, I basically need to let our AI assistant know that this is actually the direction that we want to go in as far as colors. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and just copy this source code for this screen. I'm going to come here to GBT and I'm going to go ahead and just paste it in here. Okay, so I gave it a prompt here and I basically said, go ahead and take a look at this HTML setup. As you can see from the Tailwind config, you can see which colors are being used for the background accents and things like that. So all I want you to do is study this because I'm going to ask you on a screen-by-screen basis. That's basically what I'm telling GBT. GPT-5 has a much bigger context window, so you can actually send a lot more information. I was actually kind of worried that it would run out of the context window and I'd have to put it into some type of PDF file, but no, this actually works. Okay, so as you see here, GBT actually understands exactly what I'm doing here. Now, I'm not using light cayenne. Obviously, this color code that we're using for the background is actually not light cayenne at all. Okay, so I basically just gave it a prompt here, just let GBT know instead of using the actual name of the colors, we'll just use background color, surface color, primary color. All right, so now that we have this screen created here, I'm just gonna move it here. We can now go ahead and let's recreate all of these screens. So we'll go ahead and go from the splash screen all the way forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and do this really quickly and I'm going to bring back the screen when they're all done. All right, so I went ahead and I generated the hi-fi design of each one. It did take a little bit. I kind of wish that UX Pilot had a feature where I can just kind of highlight this and I can just generate all of them into a hi-fi design. But basically, the fast way to actually do this is what you want to do. So when you come in here and you ask GBT to kind of share the same style, right, what it's going to want to do is that it's going to want to kind of relist everything, but it doesn't need to do that. All you really need is from the colors all the way up here, where it says transform the provided wireframe and get all the colors. With that being said, I went ahead and generated this screen flow. So we have our splash screen here, we have this expense tracker, and there's some imperfections, like for example, it's just white here. We probably want this to come all the way down. Or maybe we do want some contrast around the button. That's something we can test, right? And we see that the logo kind of differs here, but that's okay. Things like that we can definitely change once we get into code. This is the home screen. This is the screen to add the expenses. This is what it looks like once the expenses are added. Here's the category breakdown, right? Inside of the categories here. So you can see here for housing, these are different things. And then lastly here, this is just strictly a category screen. So do watch out for a future video where we're gonna go ahead and set up a React Native application with Expo Go. And we're gonna go ahead and transform these designs here into a real workable mobile application. So do look out for that. If you're a creator, founder, someone that's just passionate about building applications like this, then do hit subscribe because I plan to release a lot more content around building with AI, not just automating things with AI. With that being said, thanks so much for checking out the video and I'll see you in the next one.